What's up, everybody? Kim Becker and Ryan Blackburn here for your weekly AMA for the Denver Nuggets. Ryan, game 3 is tonight. You are in Minnesota. How's the weather?
Weather's pretty good. It's a little bit chilly here, but nothing I can't handle being from Denver. It's all good.
Absolutely, and especially the winter we've had here. It seems that I think all of us are well equipped to handle the cold for literally the rest of the year because it feels like it's never going to get warm. But beside the point, let's get into the Nuggets game tonight with the Minnesota Timberwolves. Like I said, the third game. The Nuggets lead the series 2-0 right now. Cody Rourke, good old Cody, is coming in with our first question here. He said, what is the biggest thing Denver has to do differently in game 3?
Yeah, I think game 1 was great for Denver for a number of reasons. Game 2, you saw them be a little bit lax. You saw them like let go of the rope just a little bit. And at the end of the second quarter and then the beginning of the third and throughout the third, they weren't playing with the same intensity and focus and desire to crush the Timberwolves. And I think that that's probably the mentality that they have to have. Michael Malone had the quote of the night a couple nights ago after game 2. They've got to be greedy bastards. That's just who they have to be. And it's just not something that Denver has ever been. I don't think in the Michael Malone, Nikola Jokic era, they have been just good enough in a lot of ways. So this is what they've got to change. They've got to be as greedy as possible. Let's see if they could take care of the series as early as possible, make it as easy on themselves as they can for a long playoff run.
Now, do you agree that tonight's game might be the toughest one so far and even moving forward? Because Minnesota has to have the mentality that this is a must-win game for them, right?
Absolutely. It's like coming back from 2-1 is way different from coming back from 3-0. And Nuggets fans, I think, can attest to this for sure. That game 3 loss last year that Denver had against Golden State, it was a big, big difference between if they had won that game versus losing that game, because game 4, yeah, they got it, but I don't think anybody had any misconceptions that Denver was going to win that series after they lost game 3. So if Denver can get that win on the road tonight, that'll go a long way in winning the series quickly.
All right, we love it. Okay, next question from Neverland. Who should we likely expect a bigger game from tonight, Jokic or MPJ?
Yeah, I'm always going to default to Jokic on these. Like, he's the guy I trust. He's the guy that every Nuggets fan should definitely trust too. I understand that he has been dealing with the right wrist injury. That's definitely a concern. But even through that in the last game, he had 27 points, 9 rebounds, 9 assists. Yeah. I thought he went through a pretty bad spell in the middle of the game. But on the two ends, at the beginning and at the end, he was still pretty good, still pretty helpful, and just like a very good compliment to the crazy scoring that Jamal Murray was doing. So if I were a betting man, I would say that Jokic would be that guy. But maybe in comparison to expectations, Michael Porter, he's still his shot is looking good. He's a clutch performer. He's somebody that the Nuggets are going to need. I hope they get him going earlier in this game tonight.
Yeah, it wasn't until like the fourth quarter that he really erupted, last game.
And that's honestly, that's one of the issues with MPJ is that he's not a focal point of the offense. And sometimes when you're not the focal point, you can kind of fade into the background. I think if he wants to be that main focal point, he's got to try to establish himself early, and the Nuggets will have to help him along that journey.
Well, I am a betting guy, and MPJ's points tonight is 16.5, and I actually took the under. He's been over that number every game that he's played in Minnesota so far this year, but for some reason, I think he's going to go on the under tonight because I think Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic are going to be the two to get more of the opportunities. So we'll talk later and see if I was right or wrong on that one. Hopefully I'm right. But again, I guess for the Nuggets, hopefully I'm not right.
I totally agree with that. That's for sure.
All right, moving on here. This next question from Patrick. How do the Nuggets manage to get the Wolves into foul trouble again without themselves getting into foul trouble again?
Yeah, this is one of those things where you're probably going to get a different whistle than you got at home. I think the T-Wolves will be aggressive. They'll have the crowd at their back. The referees, I think in general, do a really good job of trying to keep themselves out of that and try to call it as evenly as they can both ways. Yeah. But yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if Nikola Jokic picked up a technical because he was frustrated with the call, as opposed to Rudy Gobert, who did it last game in game 2. So I do think that Denver, they've got to defend without fouling as best as they can. But the problem is that you've got to straddle that line, and crossing that line is really tough. Because it's very, very easy to do so. With the way the games are called nowadays, it's generally if you disrupt anybody's actual center of gravity, you're probably going to get a call. So I do think that Denver can manage it this time, but they've got to be disciplined. They've got to be quick. They've got to use their feet as opposed to their hands. That's the best way to defend. Don't try to defend with your arms. Don't try to defend with your hands. Move your body, and do it early as opposed to reacting to what the defense is going to do.
All right. Makes sense. Love it. You're quick with these answers today, Ryan. It's like boom, boom, boom. I love it. All right. I know you got to get ready for the game soon. So that's probably why I just like keep it going.
No, it's all good.
I love it. All right. This next one in the clutch says, do you think that the Nuggets will set a tone that every game in the playoff matters and bring their A game, or will they take their foot off of the gas?
Well, it's kind of like what we were talking about earlier, right? Like this team, they sometimes struggle with keeping their foot down. Like they sometimes struggle with making sure that the pedal is to the metal when it comes to their effort, their intensity, and you see the let-ups like they had in this last game too. So it wouldn't surprise me if they had a little bit of a letdown in game 3, a rowdy crowd. It's promising to be. I think that the Minnesota fans, they can sense the end coming and they want to get a win before that ultimately happens. So they're going to be very up for this game. And Denver, if they are willing to get up for it, then that's great. But they haven't really been during the regular season. I get a sense that because it's the playoffs, because the Nuggets are as concerned as they are about trying to get through this series with little resistance as possible, they'll try it. But if they don't match the energy that the Timberwolves bring, it wouldn't surprise me if they just say, hey, we're just gonna pack it up, meet you in game 4, try to get a win then, and then get a win in game 5 at home.
Yeah. What is your gut telling you? Do you think the Nuggets are going to sweep, or do you think it's going to go to 5 or 6?
I think it's going to go to 5. I think they lose one of the next 2. It's just something in their nature. Like they haven't shaken it. They aren't that dominant team that says, yeah, we are going to push this pedal to the metal for 48 minutes a night for 4 straight games. It's just never been who they are. And can they be? Sure, but they'd have to change what their nature is. And if they do, then great. If not, then it's not really a surprise to me.
No, I agree with you. I think it's going to be a tough one tonight, especially just being in Minnesota, the Timberwolves having their home crowd and knowing that they can't lose this game. I think this one is going to be one easily that can slip away. So we'll see what happens. Obviously, I don't hope for that, people. Don't at me here. I'm just saying that's how I feel. All right, this next question from Matthew. Do you suspect Christian Braun's minutes to increase, decrease, or stay the same this next game and going into future games?
Yeah, I think this last game he played, 7 or 8 minutes. It's not enough if you're actually running an 8-man rotation. I think this is one of Michael Malone's biggest challenges, is to make sure that he's consistently getting everybody as consistent of a rotation role as possible. Last game, Jeff Green played nearly 27 minutes, part of that due to foul trouble with Aaron Gordon, but also just because Denver wanted to play a little bit bigger. There was a stretch in game 1 where Christian Braun played the 3 and Michael Porter played the 4 that Denver never really got back to in game 2. So wouldn't surprise me if they try that again to try to get Christian Braun some extra minutes here. But if Jeff Green is playing well, don't be surprised if Christian continues to have about that 7, 8 to 10 minute range. Okay. I like it better when he plays 15, but it wouldn't surprise me if it stays about the same.
Well, and I think we talked about this a little bit too. For consistency and development and improvement, these guys need a little bit more minutes than that, especially a guy like Christian Braun. So hopefully, I know it's the playoffs, it's a dire situation. You got to have your best guys out there, but he's been doing pretty well for this team. So hopefully he does get a few more minutes.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me. And he's played well in the minutes that he has had. So it's not a surprise to me if he's able to make that happen, if he's able to do it. He does have the trust of Michael Malone. I do want to stress that to everybody, that Michael Malone does like and trust and know what Christian Braun brings to the table. He knows what he can get. And despite the fact that he's a rookie, Christian Braun has earned that through hard work, consistency, making the right reads, executing on defense. And then the offense, when he's stable, has been really helpful too. So he was the last guy on the floor today during shoot around, getting as many shots up as he could possibly can. So he's going to try to be ready for this hostile environment. Usually rookies don't play well in their first road playoff games. So we'll try to cross that bridge when we come to it. But don't be surprised if he probably stays at around 10 minutes in this game 3 and then maybe ups it in game 4.
Okay, sweet. We like that. All right, this next one from Fernando. Rudy Gobert is listed as questionable for tonight. If he can't play, do you think that helps the Wolves offense, as their number one center lineups have seemed to work better than the Twin Towers lineup?
Yeah, so the Timberwolves, what they do right now is they have, because of the two centers that they play in, Karl-Anthony Towns and Rudy Gobert, they play basically three different combinations. Minutes with both of those guys on the floor, minutes with Rudy Gobert on the floor by himself, and then minutes with Towns on the floor by himself. And they don't really play that many other minutes. I was looking at the numbers. They play basically an even split with those three in each of those configurations, maybe both of them overlapping just a little bit more. And then there are very few minutes where neither of them are out there. Most of those I would consider to be garbage time. So I think that if Gobert is out, then that helps the Nuggets. It's not just this one thing where, yeah, it's always going to help the Timberwolves. I do think that Gobert did a good job against Nikola Jokic. And if I'm the Timberwolves, that's the thing that I want. I want to slow down the Nuggets offense as much as I can, or at least slow down Nikola Jokic as much as I can. But to Fernando's point, there is something to be said about the way that they have to play with Rudy Gobert on the floor on the defensive end. It leaves guys like Jamal Murray open. It leaves guys like KCP and Michael Porter open because Rudy Gobert is dropping into the paint. He's trying to protect that area. And those guys are going to have shots off the dribble that if they can get to that spot and hit it efficiently, then there's very little that the T-Wolves can actually do about that. So if I'm the Nuggets, I'm okay either way. I think personally that Gobert is a good enough player that you would like him to just not be out there because it reduces the amount that they have in their rotation. But there is something to Fernando's point that's probably their best configuration. The Gobert, well, actually, the actual plus minus says that Gobert and Towns, that lineup has been best. And then the Towns without Gobert lineup has been second best. And then Gobert without Towns has been the worst. So maybe it would help them. Maybe it would help, but if you throw that wrench into this actual rotation, I don't really know what to expect.
Okay. All right. Well, I guess we'll find out. Also, I just sneezed, so sorry if I distracted you, but you did well. You kept going. Trying to hold it in. All right. One more question to wrap up this AMA before Game 3 gets going in Minnesota. This last question from Garrett. What else do you want to see from the Nuggets to be confident that they can win it all? I feel like we got to see a little bit more.
Yeah, there's the amount of intensity that they had in that first game was really impressive.
Yeah.
Combined with the fact that the Timberwolves just weren't really ready for it, I'm not sure how to grade that game versus grading Game 2. I think that the Game 2 is basically a pretty strong microcosm of who the Nuggets have been throughout these last 82 regular season games. They're the team that both built the lead with their starters and with a good rotation in the first half, right at the end of the first half. And then in the third quarter, they're also the team that gave up the lead because they were lax and just not trying as hard. And then the third team, the third version, is the one that Murray really unlocks. It's the resiliency. It's the guy who is unwilling to let you lose. And having all three of those teams as part of your identity, I think is really interesting. It's about tapping into the first and the third one as often as possible and then leaving that second one in the dust if you can. I would like to see Denver get away from that second version of themselves, the one that's lax, the one that just isn't trying that hard, the one that doesn't have the urgency. I can understand it against the T-Wolves, but if that comes out and if it's against the Phoenix Suns in the second round, the Denver Nuggets are going to be eliminated. I feel pretty strongly about that. They have to limit that version of themselves as much as they possibly can. If they do, then it will be okay. And they have a really strong chance to win this entire thing. But I've seen enough from Murray. I've seen enough from Porter. Maybe I'd like to see Jokic just go into overdrive, but he's going up against like a 4-time defensive player of the year. So I'm not really surprised that he's at least a little bit limited here. But if he's going up against a future team, I want to see him take over that matchup as a scorer, not just as a playmaker.
Makes sense. All right, Ryan. Well, thank you so much. Enjoy the game tonight. Stay warm. Game 3. Hopefully the Nuggets can get her done, but we all know what could possibly happen. So enjoy it either way.
Thank you, Kim. I appreciate you.
All right. We'll see you next week.